Opinel, Swiss Army knife, Layol knife, Mercator, Tuk, Z Hunter, Svord Peasant. That's right, the knife collector's journey is very rarely over, but you'll often find along your way you will stop along the regional knives. The knives that are quite inexpensive, unchanged for a long time, have rich history. You may not be particularly competitive in a lot of aspects to today's knives, but have a certain charm and definitely a certain X factor to them that at least makes you appreciate a unique design that really, I guess, is to an extent time proven. This is a friction folding knife made by Svord that is based on a very much recurring old pattern. I don't know much of the history of this one. All I know is that it is another one of the simple yet I suppose effective cutting tools that has been in existence for a long time. At any rate, let's break down the Svord Peasant. We'll talk about what it's good at, what it's bad at, whether it's really relevant anymore, who the knife is for, and a bunch of other stuff. Let's get into it. So the Svord Peasant is a really low-cost knife. It is low-cost because it is simple in materials, mechanism, and construction. So materials, you are getting basic plastic. This is just a plastic handle. You can get some in wood. You can get some in all sorts, really. Very simple brass flathead screw construction. You can take these apart and adjust them as you see fit. The blade is made on this one of L6 Swedish tool steel, which is a pretty decent steel, to be honest. It's definitely up there with, say, the carbon steel that the Opinel uses, and yet very much in line with your basic carbon steels you'll find in a lot of traditional knives. Cheap, effective materials enable this knife to be sold for about $20 in Australia. The higher level handle scale materials will push that up a bit, available in all sorts of bright colours and whatnot. Very cool knife. And it is cool in a sense that I reckon it's a pretty good looking knife. It's big and it's a bit sort of odd in hand and odd to use, but overall there's a few things that they've really nailed about the appearance of this. The bright coloured handles, for one, I think are really nice. Even though it's just plastic, it is somewhat rough to the touch. And yeah, it's just very clean, like nice bright coloured plastic, not too bad at all. The main thing I like most about it is the blade. They've gone and got this sort of forged look to it. It's probably just sheet steel or however cold rolled or however it comes, but they've gone and left this part unfinished and then just ground here and then put an edge on. So it gives you like that really kind of rustic look. They've gone and stamped in Svord into their, New Zealand Svord into their tang there. Very nice, simple looking blade. Really nice blade shape as well. Nice long flat section, nice high belly up to almost the level of the spine. So the point does trail up a fair bit too. Very nice looking, cool looking knife when opened. When closed, it's a bit strange. It kind of looks like a bit banana-esque with a strange old friction lever up there too. So what is a friction folder? Let's get on to that part next. Friction folder is a very simple mechanism by which your knife is held open by you holding the knife. As long as your palm is here, the knife can't really close. It'd have to push past your palm and then swing down to close on you. So probably not going to happen, but it's still not the best for cuts where you might be suddenly jerking back and forgetting yourself. So yeah, certainly one of history's more simple mechanisms, probably even simpler than the slip joint even, because the slip joint has some machining to sort of enable it to stay somewhat open. There is at least usually a squared off tang to prevent, offer a little bit of bounce back. This one here, it'll just close as much as you want it to close. So there you go, that's a slip joint. In reality, the use of this knife when it is open is absolutely fine. I haven't noticed any issues with it. It does feel a bit like using a mini sort of kitchen knife, like a little paring knife or something like that. The reasons for that is, another great thing about the blade, it is super thin. So it's like a 2mm thick blade, really thin, really highly ground. This is a slicing beast. When you put a sufficient edge on this, it is second to none, I found, in cutting. It cuts better than an Opinel, so it's about as thin as the Opinel, but it is almost twice as tall, so it has a real long time to get to that sharp edge. I've gone and put about a 17-degree Lansky edge on this, so it slices exceptionally well. It slices like a mini kitchen knife. Not the strongest edge for getting out and doing woodcraft, however I did do a bit of that, and it kept its mirror finish and its razor sharpness for a few passes of wood anyway. So not super brittle, but yeah, probably not the best for taking out and surviving with. But it's a slip joint, or sorry, it's a friction folder. You're probably not going to be using it for that purpose anyway. So, in terms of actual use and having it in hand, it is a great user. So it is just a simple, good, honest, very good slicing knife. So most of the things you want checked in your list of desirable qualities of using a knife are here. The steel lasts well enough. It lasts as good as your basic carbon steels, which are absolutely fine. It'll rust. It's a rust-prone steel, absolutely. So if you are using this as a food preparation knife, then just keep some olive oil around and keep it oiled, and it should do you absolutely fine. Now, the main weirdness comes with this knife is closing it and storing it in your pocket and using it. It's a big footprint to have in your pocket. It's wide, and it is long. You've got this weird long level here with a hole in it for some reason. If you know what the hole's for, let me know. It's probably just for, because you can't really put a lanyard in it because it'd get swallowed up when you close the knife all the way. Oh, maybe you could, like a thin lanyard. Maybe that's what it is. Anyway, carrying this around is weird and it is odd. It is almost like a sheath knife, but then you need a sheath that could accommodate this as well. Very, very strange thing to lug around. You need like a nice deep cargo pants pocket to have this knife with you. So yeah, that's probably the main weirdness that comes from having this one in your pocket. Let's look at some size comparisons to other knives. You'll see it is not small. Okay, so this is it next to its traditional brethren, so next to an Opinel and next to a Swiss Army knife. You can see it's quite handle-centric, lots of handle to hold onto, which is great because it is a very comfortable knife in hand to use. No worries at all. It's kind of on the large side though, even when it's open, just letting you know. It's probably about as big as, well, let's look at what normal knives it is as big as. This is it next to a Spyderco Police 4, which is a large folding knife. So you're probably looking about, well, here's a Spyderco Spidey Chef. That's kind of like a large, that's about the same size as like a Paramilitary 2, for example. So yeah, it's definitely in the mid to large size folding knife. The thing about it is, when you turn it onto its spine, you see how thick it is, and that's really what does stop it from being an awesome carrier. Because you know, length, not too bad. It's just when you have it closed, you see it's still almost about as long as that Spidey Chef. Like it's like keeping an open Swiss Army knife in your pocket. It really is. So that's the main sort of issue with the blade. This is next to a, where are we? Get that Spidey Chef back. This is next to the Chef, and this is it next to the knife we'll be reviewing soon, the Boker Mini Kwaiken. So there you go. Listen, overall, this knife is so cheap that it's not really worth not buying. If you're a knife collector, it's really something worth trying, especially just if you want to see some real sheer cutting performance. In terms of slicing, with a good edge on this, very, very few things are going to best a knife this tall and this thin at slicing. It is really kitchen knife-esque, and to be able to carry that around in your pocket and use it as like a portable camp sort of food prep knife, really cool idea. So just the only thing that's going to get you is portability and, I mean, overall fit and finish, but again, it's a $20 knife. I didn't even start factoring fit and finish into that. It really is a blank canvas when you get a $20 knife like this, and that's $20 in Australia. In America, it's probably about 12 bucks, something like that. Didn't come with an edge particularly. This one was sent to me by Dave, one of my subscribers, and I did the L6 steel test on it a long time ago, and I'm only just getting around to reviewing it. But yeah, even if I bought this, I wouldn't be particularly fussed about the edge, because good soft carbon steel like this is going to take an edge really well, hold it fairly well, be tough. It's going to have all that good stuff going for it. You're just going to have to put in a little bit of work yourself. It's great. You can disassemble it. You can put different handle scales on it. You could make your own handle scales for it without a problem at all, as long as you sort of did your basics of having you know, the same distances for things, and so the pinch off point was, you know, so the knife didn't just keep traveling straight through the handle, all that sort of stuff. But yeah, it's highly customizable. Even if you just bought a couple of these blades, you'd probably be able to get some cool stuff done. So yeah, the Svord Peasant, you know, it's probably left behind by time a little bit in terms of what modern pocket knives are doing. So the Spider Chef's kind of an equivalent sort of knife, as in a really high performance slicing kind of knife, or the Police 4 really is as well. But then these knives are about 10 times as much as this knife, so this really is something to be said for just classic sliceability, and this one does have that in spades. As long as you can bear the oddness here, you might even find the oddness is a bit of an endearing quality to it. It might still be worth picking up, it might still be worth having a crack, especially if you're, like me, just in it for the experiences and the collection and whatnot. Alright guys, Svord Peasant, hope you've enjoyed, I'll see you in the next video. Bye now.